Good afternoon. My name is Johnny Rowland, and I'm Superintendent of the Webster Parish School System. It is my pleasure to be here before you today to hopefully be able to help with some concerns, help with some questions, and help ease some fears and anxiety that people may be experiencing during this time. Let's go back in time a few months. In mid-March, the COVID-19 pandemic was in its early stages. People were fearful. People are still fearful. The governor made a decision to close schools, which was in the best interest of the health and safety of our students as well as our employees. I can say that here in Webster Parish, many people came together to make the best of this unprecedented situation. So sometime in May, I asked members of our supervisory staff to come together to form an academic planning committee. That committee was made up of 5 individuals. It was spearheaded by Ms. Elrita Banks. She served as the chairman of that committee. Ms. Melanie Jacobs, Ms. Linda Hudson, Ms. Dusty Rowland, and Ms. Yolanda Palmer. What they were tasked with was coming up with a plan or a framework to serve as a guide for our principals and administrative teams, as well as our teachers, support staff personnel, to use as they plan for the upcoming school year. It was also designed to be a framework or a guide for our parents, our guardians, our community stakeholders, so that they could use it as well to answer questions that they may have. The committee did just that. They came up with a comprehensive framework, a comprehensive guide, a comprehensive plan to serve in this role. Fast forward to mid-June. The first draft of this plan was presented to our school board. The school board listened intently. We were tasked with taking that framework and filling in the gaps. We did just that. Other individuals came to the table and added in individual ways. So then on July 6th, we brought our completed plan, and I say that as to however that applies in a time of uncertainty, back to our board and presented again. And the plan that was presented was called Reconnect Webster 2020. After the board heard this plan, it was then sent out through various social media avenues. It went out on Facebook, and people were able to see it and read it and digest it. Our local paper, the Minden Press Herald, ran a nice feature on Reconnect Webster 2020. So then that brings us to today. As a result, many people here in our community have questions, and justifiably so. And I would like to say to all of our parents and our students, community members, other stakeholders, we are listening to you with a sympathetic ear. We understand because of the circumstances. We understand that you have questions, you have concerns. And we want you to know that, and we want you to know that we are here to help you and to serve you. We understand that when you're living in a pandemic, that I think it's fair to say something that the world has never seen, especially generations and generations. We understand that uncertainty brings negativity and fear. So as we talk about the specifics of our plan today, we hope that some of these uncertainties, some of these fears can be addressed through our presentation, while acknowledging that after today, yes, there will still be questions, yes, there will still be concerns, but we will work through this together, and we welcome your input, and always feel like that you can contact the Webster Parish School Board or our individual schools for guidance. Before we move any farther, I would like to thank some individuals and also groups of people. I would like to thank the Webster Parish School Board for their support. I would like to thank them for the policies they have put in place. I would like to thank them for the support that they show publicly towards our students and employees. And I would also like to thank them for the private conversations that I've had with many of them, showing support for what we're trying to do. So to our school board, I say thank you. I would like to thank Assistant Superintendent Kevin Washington. I would like to thank him for his leadership that he has displayed during this time, and it is greatly appreciated. I would like to thank the entire supervisory staff, of whom many makes up our academic planning committee, for the work that they've done. I would like to thank the other supervisors and coordinators that came together to have individual parts of our plan. I would like to thank our principals and their administrative teams. They have worked and are currently working and will continue to work hours upon hours upon hours in getting ready to receive our students here in a mere few weeks. I would like to thank the hundreds of teachers and support staff that have given so much, going all the way back to March, through feeding programs, mentoring programs. Teachers are working on their own, volunteering to become better virtual school instructors. I would like to thank Brian Williams with Homeland Security and GoSelf for working with us to provide PPEs and meeting other sanitation needs that we need during this time. And then finally, I would like to thank you, the parents and the guardians out there, for being so patient, for being so kind in so many ways, and letting us know that you're behind us and willing to work with us. We greatly appreciate it. Again, because we understand the uncertainty of this time. As mentioned earlier, and let me say this too. I also like to thank Ms. Calandra Singh that we thanked before our press conference today, because the Region 7 health personnel have been there from the beginning for us. Dr. Martha White could not be here today. She had an emergency, but we had a lengthy conversation with her and Ms. Singh this morning to discuss the latest CDC guidelines and practices that we can use here in Webster Parish, and we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. So thank you. As mentioned earlier, Reconnect Webster was developed as a comprehensive plan or framework for our schools to use and for our parents and stakeholders to use. There is specific guidance given while allowing for individual discretion. It is designed to be changed or altered as conditions change. We're seeing that every day right now. The numbers are changing, new guidance is being given. The governor is giving a new directive today. So we're seeing that things are constantly changing. We must be willing to be flexible. We must be willing to adapt and admit that this is a fluid situation and be in that mindset. In our planning, specific guidance given from the Louisiana Department of Education as well as BESI has been considered when applicable. Guidance from the governor's office has been considered as well. And then, of course, we have depended upon the almost constant guidance from some of the top medical experts in the state of Louisiana. Dr. Frank Welch, he is the head of the Pandemic Task Force in the state of Louisiana. He has worked side by side with State Superintendent Dr. Kate Brumley in providing guidance to school systems throughout the state of Louisiana. Dr. LaRon Finger, who is a well-renowned pediatrician, works with the Children's Hospital of New Orleans. He is also part of this team. As mentioned earlier, Dr. Martha White, Region 7 Health Director, has been invaluable in our planning and given us guidance all along the way. And then Ms. Kalandra Singh, epidemiologist with Region 7. So we wanted to recognize these individuals and let you know that we have worked hand in hand here in Webster Parish with these experts on every level. What we thought we would do today is take specific aspects of our plan and address these areas one by one. Areas of discussion that we will be talking about today are listed as follows. Number 1, health and safety. Number 2, transportation. Number 3, school lunch programs. Number 4, school uniforms. Number 5, online registration. And then finally, number 6, academic scheduling. We will talk about each item listed in the order that I gave them to you. Okay? Let's start with health and safety. If you don't mind, I'm going to just read this to you as to what our plan is. School safety will focus around keeping the school as clean and disinfected as possible. There will be a variety of disinfectants used to make sure there's no viral resistance formed and to ensure we always have a source of disinfectants. Custodians will of course clean the entire school each day, as well as clean and disinfect high touch points and restrooms every hour. Classrooms that contain students in grades 6 through 12 that change classes will disinfect the desk and high point touch areas at the end of each class. Self-contained classrooms will disinfect high touch points areas hourly. Hand sanitation stations with an alcohol-based foam will be available in every classroom, and teachers will have available to them their own hand sanitizer and bottles of disinfectant spray. Each school will have an administrator in charge of school sanitation and will monitor the cleaning and sanitation process daily. There will be an in-service for all custodians and administrators in charge of sanitation on August 12th, while professional chemical representatives conducting portions of this training. Students in grades 3 through 12 will be required to wear a mask. So let me stop right there and speak to that. This is specific guidance from Bessie. We will follow these guidelines. For pre-K through 2, it's recommended, but for 3 through 12, it is a guideline. What will the Webster Parish School System do? The Webster Parish School System will provide each student multiple masks, cloth masks, for them to wear. And in addition to that, there will be disposable masks that will be placed at each school for when we have those cases where either a student or employee doesn't have masks, we will provide them for you. We're still working through, of course, how all of this will look in each school, but this is a guideline that's been sent from Bessie through the state superintendent as well, and this is something that we will adhere to here in Webster Parish. Also, the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, GOSEP, will be providing one cloth mask for all students of Webster Parish as well. In addition to, student temperatures will be checked via a no-touch infrared thermometer and recorded when the students arrive at school each day. Let's talk about the particulars there. When students come to school, as well as employees, they will have their temperature checked every day and will answer a list of questions that have been recommended through the Department of Health or by the Department of Health. What our plan is today is for that first period teacher to take that temperature and then to record that temperature daily. Obviously, this will serve as a screener for those that may be exhibiting a symptom of a high temperature. So that is something that we will be doing in the Webster Parish school system this year, is taking that daily temperature. I had a question come to me the other day about why isn't it done on the bus? Why don't you guys do that on the bus instead of waiting until it gets to the school? Well, after much discussion about it, we realized that parents have to work, parents are up early, parents have to leave their children at times at the bus stop, knowing that that bus driver is going to pick them up. But what we didn't want to do was have a case where a bus driver out there, who's out there by him or herself, have to deal with that, and then there not be anyone at home to receive that child. And we'll talk in just a second, safety precautions that will be put in place on the bus as well. So that's why the decision was made to complete the temperature checks at school daily. Okay. Along with health and safety, in addition to the wearing of masks, in addition to the temperature checks, we will practice the guidelines for social distancing to the maximum extent possible. We will do this. Okay? Also, we will encourage all of our students and employees to practice hand sanitizing and disinfecting quite often. Each school has been tasked with setting up a sick room, and we're still working with Dr. White and Ms. Singh on how we will staff those sick rooms, but that is something that has been asked of us because we recognize that there's going to be times that students will be sick, and it may not just be COVID-19, but it may be other things. But we understand that especially with the severity of COVID-19 and where we are now, that students will have to be removed from their static groups and or their classroom, and there will be somewhere in the school designated for them to go. So each school will have a specific set-aside sick room. Let's go ahead and let's move to transportation. Now understand that in the world of education, the different phases dictates how we will operate. Right now we're in phase 2, and I believe we're going to be in phase 2 for a few more weeks, I believe. So as long as we're in phase 2, the state guidelines tell us that we can transport students at 50% capacity of what the school bus can hold. That's going to be anywhere from 33 to 38 students per bus. When we move into phase 3, that will move to 75% of bus capacity, and that's going to be somewhere between 50 and 57 students per bus, depending upon the carrying capacity of that bus. During phase 2, when students are on an AB hybrid schedule, which we will talk about in just a few minutes, students will be scheduled by household and bus capacity so that bus load will remain within the guidelines. School buses will travel with the windows down to have maximum air circulation, and students will board the buses where they do not have to pass other students to get on and off the bus. All students will have assigned seats and be required to wear masks while riding the bus in grades 3 through 12. School buses will be disinfected after each trip and will be cleaned after each afternoon trip. Next, school lunch programs, school breakfast, school feeding programs. It's safe to say that cafeterias will not look like they did before we all went home in March because of COVID-19. But we are going to still feed our students. Those that are at school every day will receive breakfast and lunch. It's going to look a little differently. You may go to the cafeteria and receive a grab and go. You may eat lunch with your static group or your class that you have been with, depending upon the guidelines or depending upon what the principal has in store for how that will look. But students will still receive breakfast and lunch, and even those that are at home during phase 2 or those that choose to participate in our Tech Connect virtual learning program will have meals available to them. We're still working through the logistics of how that will look, but it will be available, and we will give you more details as we work through this as we get closer to the beginning of the school year, which is September 1st. But I wanted to definitely get out there that school breakfast, school lunch will still be served. School uniforms. We understand there's been some frustrations with maybe being able to purchase school uniforms or access school uniforms because of various reasons. We're going to still require that school uniforms be worn, but I want you to know that if you need help or you need assistance in getting school uniforms, there are many folks, many groups, many people that want to help you. You can contact your school principal, contact other personnel at your school, and they will do the best to assist and help you. You can contact us here at the school board office. Give us your name, give us your information, and we will help. We will work to help you with this. The school uniforms will still be required, but please know we are sympathetic, we are understanding, and we will work with you to make this happen. Now, for those that are experiencing at-home learning, the dress code certainly will be somewhat relaxed, although it will not totally be discarded, and we will give more guidance as we get closer to school about what those expectations will be. Okay, online registration. This is the first year that we've ever had 100% online registration here in Webster Parish, so it's safe to say that this is new to us, and we are working through the minor glitches and the issues that we're experiencing. So we would like for you to know that online registration applies to students registering for our traditional or virtual program. The online registration system is a paperless registration designed to be a contact-free process for registering pre-K through 12 students. For returning students, the online registration system will allow parents to update student demographics, emergency contact information, and access permissions and policies online. For new students, the online registration system will allow parents to upload documents directly from their home computer or take a screenshot from their smartphone without the hassle of making copies to send to the student's school. Because the system is new to all of us, we have persons available to troubleshoot and assist parents. These persons have direct lines at the school board office. Our receptionist knows when you call who she needs to contact. So we ask that you continue to work with us, be patient, but we will try our best to return every call from parents or guardians that need assistance. We also have personnel from each school who have been trained to assist with questions. Additionally, we have created a step-by-step guide and a video that is available on our district Facebook page and district website. Okay, let's talk about this scenario. Let's say that we have someone that's new to our district, or maybe someone that's not, but they don't feel comfortable with this, or they didn't know about this, or whatever the situation may be. They can still go to their school, their child's school, and they will seek help and guidance there on how to get their child registered from the school. So we understand that's going to happen, and our principals and administrative teams and secretaries will be given this guidance, and so that is still an option for people. But we are encouraging to keep down on the face-to-face, to have a touch-less process. We are encouraging as many people as possible to participate in our online registration that we have going this year. Okay, and then finally, I would like to take a few minutes to talk about our academic scheduling and how days can look for our students. We've had a lot of questions about this, and we understand this. We've had a lot of concerns, and again, we understand this. The phases determine how we're going to deliver instruction to our students. Phase 2 looks very much differently when it comes to brick and mortar attendance than phase 3. Okay? So let's go ahead and discuss phase 2. We're currently in phase 2. So when we receive our students on September 1st, and we're still in phase 2, we're going to incorporate what's called a hybrid A-B schedule. Now let's talk about it. Let's talk about the specifics of what exactly is a hybrid A-B schedule. Remember, we're keeping in line with the guidelines as called for by phase 2. All right? Here's what it essentially means. Our students will be taken, and you will have one group of students that will be identified as Group A, one group of students that will be identified as Group B. Group A students will attend physically to the brick and mortar school on Monday and Wednesday. Okay? Group B students will attend physically at the brick and mortar school on Tuesday and Thursday. Okay? Now, while Group A is at school learning, Group B is going to be at home participating and at what we call at-home learning. You might even say through virtual means, because every student in Webster Parish before school start is going to be issued a Chromebook. We'll talk in just a few minutes about those that don't have internet connectivity, but every student will receive a Chromebook before school starts. Okay? And then vice versa, when students are in Group B are at school, students in Group A will be at home, and then Friday will be a virtual or distance or at-home learning day for all of our students. That's when no new material will be presented. It will be a time where teachers can have one-on-one sessions with their students. Work can be caught up on. Teachers can have a chance to assess and see where they are with their individual classrooms, with their individual students. And so that is our plan for phase 2. Okay. For those that don't have internet connectivity at home, you will still have a Chromebook. You can still use a jump drive or a flash drive that will be loaded with the current assignments or assessments or activities that your teacher has for you to do. You can still do that. In addition, for those of you that don't have internet connectivity, your teacher, these Chromebooks have some capacity to upload things to them. That could happen when you're physically at school during the week. Okay? Now, I know we all hope we don't go back to phase 1, but we need to mention phase 1. If we go back to phase 1 in Webster Parish, all students will be participating in 100% distance learning if we go back to phase 1. In addition to, or to add to thoughts that we've kept in mind in our grouping and our planning, we're well aware of that in many households, brothers and sisters may not share the last name. Okay? Our schools are being charged with determining who those students are and keeping that in mind as we plan to where we don't have certain members of a household going on this day, other members of a household going this day. So we're keeping those things in mind, and that has been a question that has come to us. So we definitely wanted to address that. Okay? Now, let's talk about phase 3. When we move to phase 3, we will move to a more traditional school setting. That's when we will be in a position to receive all of our students at one time at the brick and mortar school. We will still have to keep in place the health and safety guidelines that we've talked about earlier. But just because of the guidelines and the looser restrictions in phase 3, we will be able to do that. and host all of our students at that time. So that will be the period of time when school begins to look a little more normal like we knew it before when we get into phase 3. Okay. Now we have a new option that's available to our students in Webster Parish that I want to spend a little time talking about. It's something we're very excited about. It's called Webster Parish Tech Connect. That is a virtual option that parents and students can choose, can take advantage of if that's what they decide to do. And it's just like we said, it is a 100% virtual learning option for our students. And I want to say this, we want everyone to know that it's important to us that those students that participate in the virtual learning option have as close to an academic experience through the virtual learning component as you do in the brick and mortar. We know it can never be quite the same, but we are passionate about trying to make it as beneficial as we can. Okay? Now, questions that we have got from that, or that we received from that. If a student starts out in either the brick and mortar, or if they start out in a virtual learning program, are they bound to stay in that program the rest of the year? The answer to that is no. There will be windows of time, probably at the end of every 9 weeks, to where you can you can declare what you would like to do. You will visit with your school principal, appropriate personnel from here at the school board office, spearheaded through Mr. Washington's office, and then the decision will be made. Or if you have one of those circumstances where you just need to make a move now, those case-by-case scenarios will be taken as well. So no, you're not bound to stay in that program the entire year if you start off in one or the other. Obviously, if you don't have internet access, it's going to be difficult for you to participate in this program. So this program would be for those that have connectivity, internet access. What will it look like when students are participating in virtual learning? Well, in grades through 5, Google Classroom will be used. Students will have face-to-face through a computer screen interaction with their teacher. The same curriculums will be used that we use now in the brick and mortar setting, which are all Tier 1 curriculum in the core subject areas. The teacher will provide live instruction, support, monitor student progress, monitor attendance, and course completion. The teacher will interact with students 5 days per week. And again, that's in grades K through 5. In grades 6 through 12, it looks a little different, but it's still a very good plan. It's just a little different because we consider the age of our students. But it's virtual learning. We will use Edgenuity as well as Google Classroom as we deliver our various curriculum. Not only will core subject areas be addressed, also non-core CTE curriculum will be assigned as well. Teachers, again, will provide support, monitor student progress, attendance, course completion. Teachers will interact with students as well on a weekly basis, daily basis, sometimes, if needed. So, another question we get is, in the virtual learning experience, will my child be expected to maintain certain class hours? We've decided to be more flexible in our approach while realizing during this time of uncertainty that it would be difficult to mandate that. What we're looking for is we're going to be flexible with you, but we expect you to adhere to the expectations we have for you during the course of a day. But we would never tell a child or a student of ours that you can't go on at 7:30 at night and complete your work, whatever that may look like. We're going to work with our individuals in this area. So these are just a little more specific explanations as to what maybe some folks have received to this point. We know this. We will continue to give more as we move along. We are aware that not all of our students have internet access. We know that. We are working diligently to come up with sound plans to address students in that situation. We will be looking at individual cases or situations, case by case, to see what can be done to enhance that. Let me specify, the Webster Parish School Board, just like any other school board, is not an internet provider. We're not in that business. We can have conversations with providers, but we're not internet providers. Our technology coordinator, Mr. Griffith, has put together a chart of internet access rates that different internet providers have put out there that seem to be very good deals for those that are looking to either upgrade or obtain internet access. Now, I would be remiss if I did not mention this as well. I would like to address our students with disabilities. What will be afforded to them? What will be afforded for them? I'm very proud of what our special education staff has done during this pandemic and what they will continue to do. Services will be provided for all of our students with exceptionalities. All students with disabilities, including students with the most significant disabilities, 504 kids, including and gifted and talented students. Per the IEP, if parents choose the Tech Connect virtual option or our brick and mortar school. So the point there is, our students with disabilities have the same options, the same choices that our other students do. Our special education staff, teachers, parents, therapists, all service providers began providing virtual services back in the spring and will continue as they are needed through Google Classroom and through Google Meets. We experienced some great successes during this time, and we're very proud of that. Strong Start additional services. Special education staff have been in contact with families about our Strong Start additional services through our Ready, Set, Connect Academy, which starts August the 10th. And I would just say in closing that we are a strong, resilient community here in Webster Parish. I believe that if we continue to work together, we collaborate, work towards a common good, that even though we are in the midst of a pandemic, some good things can be on the horizon for us. I know we've covered a lot of things today, went into specific detail on many things, and at this time, if you have anything for me, we will do our best to answer that or take questions at this time.
I know you sent a survey out to families earlier this year. What were some of the more common answers that you guys saw of those surveys?
Well, one thing we got from that is that a lot of it's the uncertainty, but a lot of people would like for our students to be back in school. But we have heard from others that are asking a lot of questions about our virtual program. And that's why we thought it was important today to get more specifics out there about that. But the message we want to send to our stakeholders is whether you choose to send your child to the brick and mortar option that we have out there, or whether you choose to attend our virtual school option where you will attend school 100% virtually. We're going to do our very best to make that experience as just as successful and as positive as it can be. They've had specific questions about dress code, Meals at school. What will transportation look like? Will my child be able, I'm glad you asked this question. Will my child, if they choose the virtual school option, be able to participate in extracurricular activities at school? And the answer to that is yes. We're still working through the details on what the plan will be, but the answer is yes, they will be able, because they're Webster Parish students. They're every much a student as that child that attends the brick and mortar. They're just attending school a different way. So those are some of the things that we've got back.
What are extracurricular activities going to look like?
Well, it's hard today on July the 21st to answer that question because this thing is so fluid and it's changing daily. But when we start school, for sports, we will follow the specific guidelines, and we are following the specific guidelines as set forth by the LHSAA. We will adhere to the guidelines for whatever phase that we're in, grouping size, social distancing, sanitation. So today it's hard to answer exactly what it will look like, but I can assure you we will follow the guidelines as we are supposed to according to what phase we're in.
Have you been discussing what happens if a teacher or a student tests positive for
Sure.
COVID-19?
Sure. Yes, we have. Matter of fact, we had about an hour-long conversation this morning with Ms. Singh and Dr. White about that. And there are guidelines in place. And at this time, I'm going to let Ms. Singh speak to that. If we have a teacher or a student test positive for COVID.
I believe the question was if there is a positive COVID-19 case in a student or in a faculty member. At this point, we do have a reporting flow chart where the expectation is that the notification that the school has been alerted of a case comes to us. We then confirm that it is a true positive, meaning that that person has a clinically diagnostic test performed and is positive. At that point, we would see to exclude that individual from the setting. That individual would be contacted by the Office of Public Health as a case, and we will follow our protocol measures. And then next steps would be to identify close contacts of that positive case in the setting. A close contact is identified as an individual who would have been within 6 feet of an individual during their infectious period, and also less than 6 feet for greater than 15 minutes. So all persons identified as a close contact would then also be asked to exclude for 14 days. That is their quarantine period, where they would monitor their symptoms, quarantine in their home safely to see if they would develop COVID-19. And then we would also reach out to the close contact as well to give appropriate guidance.
Any other questions along those lines that you may have?
I have additional question. You mentioned earlier when you said, I don't want to paraphrase, I'll paraphrase. You said we're not in the internet business. With that being said, you also mentioned that some of the suggestions would be for thumb drive, also downloading on the Google Chromebook. Have we spoken to the ability to research, even though you may have it in Adobe PDF? What happens if you don't have internet access to maybe research, to write an essay or to do a thesis, whatever the case may be, and also keeping in mind that there are limitations on going to the library, even Barnes and Nobles, even though that's probably not even around anymore.
Yeah.
But have we addressed that?
We are currently still addressing that. Talks are still ongoing. I'm just speaking today where we are on July the 21st, but obviously things could and probably will look different as we move closer to September 1. What we are going to charge our administrators as well as our teachers to do for those students that do not have internet access and just absolutely cannot get it. We acknowledge that. So what we will do is explore every avenue to make that the experience for when that child is at home through the use of flash drives or jump drives, or seeing what that Chromebook could do. We have a teacher in the audience today that's actually filming that has done some of that, and to see what is the maximum extent of what can happen for that student. And I don't mean to be evasive, it's just that as of this time right now, that's where we are. It's still in talks, still in planning, still in dialogue as to how we can make that experience best for our students, as long as we're in phase 2. Now keep in mind, when we move to phase 3, this is a moot point when we get to phase 3. So we have other plans that we are discussing. It's a little premature to talk about right now, but as we hone them in and become more certain as to what we're going to do there, we'll be getting it out to the public.
So all these changes, like the Chromebooks and this extra technology, that comes at an expense.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm glad you said that. We were blessed to receive money through the CARES Act, as other school districts in the state of Louisiana did, as well as districts across the nation. And so, the governor has made it explicit to us that he wants to see technology, home-based technology access, home-based technology use improved here in Louisiana. And that is just what we've done with a lot of those dollars here in Webster Parish, is use that money that we received through the Strong Start allocation, which is from the CARES Act, to be able to purchase Chromebooks so that we can become a one-to-one district here in Louisiana, here in Webster Parish.